For today's demonstration, I will be demonstrating how to create a user account and modify access levels at SIAS Learning Management System. But do take note before we start the demonstration, for the modifying of access levels the user must always follow the school's policy on which user will hold the privilege. Or must consult the technical support assigned at the school before modifying any access levels. Now to start the demonstration, I will first demonstrate how to create a user. In order for the school user to create a user, the school user must navigate through Files menu and select User submenu. Upon selecting the User submenu, the system will present its user interface. But do take notice that the text fields at the user interface are disabled, and in order to enable the disabled field the school user must select Add button. Upon selecting Add button the system will enable the disabled fields. Now since the fields are enabled we can now enter the user data. Please observe as I enter a user data. For the datas that I will be entering will be based on my own preferences, but do take note when a user enters a data the user can always use the school's policy on data entering, or can also use his or her own preferences for data entering. For the access level I will set it to demo, but I will discuss later how did I create the access level. Then after the access level the user must input the campus code of the school, in which I will set main as the code for my demonstration. After filling up the data click Save button to save the record. Since we have now a user, let us now create a password for the user. In order to create a password for the user, the school user must click Edit button, then select Reset Password button. Upon selecting the Reset Password button the system will automatically generate a password in which the school user must take note of the password. After the generating of password is finished, click Save button to finish the creation of user account. Now that we have successfully created a user, let us now try to log in the user account that we have created, for verification purposes. I will input the code that we have created a while ago, then I will also input the generated password a while ago. And lastly I will select Login button to log in to the SIAS Learning Management System. Since we have successfully logged on at the system the verification of user account is successful. Now for my next demonstration, I will demonstrate how to modify access levels. In order for a user to modify an access level the user must navigate through Files menu and select User submenu. And do take notice at the middle part of the user interface, a button named Access Level is located. Now for us to modify an access level, the user must select Access Level button. Upon selecting Access Level button the system will present its user interface. Now if the user would want to create a new access level data, the user must select Add button then enter the new access level's description or data. And at our access level user interface to take notice of the menu access and privileges. Whereas the menu access is used to limit access of the user for the menus of the system, and the privileges is used to limit the user for the creation, modifying, deleting and viewing of records or data. But for my demonstration we will modify the access level that we have given to the created user a while ago, which is demo. And before we proceed with the modifying of access levels let me first present the menu access of the sample user that we have created. Here at the menu, do take notice that I have disabled all the access levels for the menu for this user. And in order for a user to grant access for a certain menu the user must modify the menu access within its user interface. For example I want to grant this user a menu access for the transaction menu and all of its sub-menu. At user access menu I will click Edit button and locate transaction menu at the drop-down selection. Upon locating transaction option, I will now select Add menu, and do take notice as I select Add menu, the menu access panel presented, and letter T plus in. Whereas letter T represents transaction and the asterisk represents all of its sub-menu. And I want to emphasize that the asterisk is used as in representation of all of its contents, so meaning the menu access that I have granted to the sample user is the transaction menu and all of its sub-menu. Please observe as I re-log in the sample user. Now as I logged in, do take notice that the transaction menu and all of its sub-menu was enabled. But do take notice that the levels of the sub-menu are disabled, and in order for the levels of the sub-menu to be enabled, The user must grant privilege at the access level user interface. By following the same process showed a while ago, but after locating the menu access to be granted, the user must select Add Level. And upon selecting Add Level, the system will grant the menu access. Please observe as I re-log in the sample user. Here do take notice that I have granted the submenu for the sample user. But what if the user would only want a specific menu to be granted for the sample user? Let's say, for example, for the submenu Activate Account, we would only grant the student access and parent access, and we would disable the other menu. Now, in order for us to limit the access, we must edit the menu access within its user interface. We will first remove the transaction/activate account menu, and one by one select the student access menu and parent access menu. After modifying the record, select Save button. Now please observe as I re-log in the sample user. Do take notice as I re-log in the sample user, the modified access levels was reflected. Now let us proceed with the privileges. For my demonstration of the privileges, I will use the menu access for Files menu, then its submenu offering, and lastly its level periods. Please observe as I enable the menu access. Then I would be removing all privileges of the sample user. I will remove the entered privilege, locating the current privilege, and select Remove Privilege button. Now please observe as I re-log in the sample user. Do take notice as I try to select Add button, the system did now allow the sample user to add a record, because we removed its privilege a while ago. For the editing and deleting of records, same notification was shown. Now if we want to grant those privileges to the user, we must edit the privileges at the access level user interface. By selecting a privilege, and clicking Add Privilege button. Please observe as I grant the privileges to the user. After granting those privileges, I will now re-log in the sample user, and do take notice that the privileges granted was reflected. With that, our demonstration for today is finished. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.